Someone is holding a message about you right now, not drafting it, not deciding whether to send it, holding it in their chest, in the tightness behind their sternum, in the thing their throat closes around every time they get close enough to say it. You didn't stumble onto this video. Something in you registered the pressure first, the inexplicable tightness in your own chest today, the dreams that felt like conversations you never got to finish, the way you've reached for your phone and set it back down more times than you can count without knowing exactly why. This is not silence, this is compression. And what's happening right now in the sky is not random background noise. It is the precise energetic mechanism that explains everything you've been feeling but couldn't name. Mercury is stationing retrograde on April 21st, conjunct a new moon in Taurus, and together these two forces create the most powerful suppression lock of the entire year. Not the end of a story. The stuck place before the next sentence forces itself out. Before we go deeper into what this portal is actually doing, if this already resonates in your body, like subscribe and comment the word portal below. Not for the algorithm, for yourself. Typing that word is how you signal to the energy field that you are ready to receive what's been held back. If you feel resistance to doing it, that's the compression working on you too. That resistance is the proof, not the obstacle. Now that you've opened that channel, let's talk about what is actually happening in the sky right now, because the mechanics of this dual event are specific, and they explain something that purely emotional frameworks cannot fully account for. Mercury retrograde is always associated with communication reversals, with things unsaid, messages misread, conversations that loop back on themselves. But Mercury stationing, the moment it freezes in the sky before reversing direction, is not the same as Mercury in retrograde motion. The station is the freeze moment. Maximum suppression pressure, concentrated in a single window of time. This is not the retrograde shadow. This is not the aftermath. This is the highest pressure point of the entire cycle, when thoughts that were building toward expression get pulled back into the body rather than outward into words. And layered beneath that station is a new moon in Taurus. And Taurus rules the throat, the voice, the neck, the jaw, the entire physical architecture of what we hold and what we release. A new moon is a seeding moment. But Taurus does not let things go. It holds until it transforms. So what you have on April 21st is this: Mercury freezing communication externally at the exact moment that Taurus is asking what has been swallowed for the sake of security to finally surface. The vagus nerve, the body's primary communication gatekeeper, the channel that runs from the brainstem through the throat and chest and down into the gut, is the physical road through which all of this travels. When the vagus nerve perceives threat, when consequence feels too large, when the ground beneath feels too fragile, it doesn't just create hesitation, it creates physiological freeze. The message doesn't get deleted, it gets rerouted. You may have noticed your jaw clenching tighter than usual these past few days, a sensation of pressure just below your throat, like something sitting there that won't dissolve. Your neck and shoulders carrying tension with no physical source. A hollow drop in your stomach when your phone lights up and it isn't them. These are not anxiety symptoms. These are your body registering the same energetic event their body is trapped inside. And here is the first thing you need to understand. The message is not gone. It was not deleted. The unsent message isn't living in their drafts folder or somewhere on their phone. It is encoded in their nervous system, in the same way a word held long enough stops being a word and becomes a physical sensation, a weight, a frequency that the body has to carry because the voice never got to release it. Think about the specific sequence of suppression. The message drafted at 2 a.m. deleted before dawn. The voice memo recorded, played back, and erased. The conversation started 3 times in text and abandoned at the first sentence. The call initiated and ended before the first ring. Each of those moments, drafted, deleted, and drafted again, left something behind. Not in any phone, in the body, in the vagus nerve that reached the threshold of expression and pulled back each time. You may have felt this from your side too, the way certain silences have a texture to them that ordinary distance doesn't have. The feeling that something is in suspension rather than absent, that they haven't gone quiet because nothing is there. They've gone quiet because everything is. The silence after Mercury stations is the loudest silence of the year, and you have been living inside it, and you have been right about what it means. What you haven't yet understood is the mechanism, why their body is holding the message instead of their phone. That is where we need to go next. The vagus nerve is the body's unsent message system. When it perceives that the cost of speaking outweighs the capacity to bear the consequence, it doesn't allow the message to reach the send button. This isn't a choice made consciously. It's a physiological override, not silence by choice, but silence by neurological design. The polyvagal response doesn't evaluate emotional readiness. It evaluates survival. It asks, if I say this, does the ground I'm standing on still hold? And a new moon in Taurus asks that question with extraordinary intensity, because Taurus energy is fundamentally about the security of the ground, the foundation, the self-image, the stability of the thing being protected. New beginnings under Taurus require releasing old ground to step forward. And for someone who has been holding something enormous about you, that step forward means risking everything that has felt stable. So the Taurus new moon creates a paradox. It's time to plant something new, but planting anything new means admitting what is already growing. The fear isn't that they don't feel it. The fear is what happens if they say it, and it costs them everything. Not indifference wearing indifference as its face, terror wearing indifference as a mask. You may have felt the distinction between these two energies without being able to name it. That instinct you've been second-guessing is not projection, it's physiological corroboration. What they're experiencing is not the absence of the message, it's the compression of a message that has reached such internal pressure that the body has found other exits. The stomach drop, the sudden tension when your name comes up in a different context. The quality of attention that doesn't look like attention until you understand what it costs to give it while holding this much inside. So what exactly are they holding? Because suppression is not a single emotion. It is a container for several different kinds of truth, and which one is sitting in their throat matters. There are categories of suppressed messages: regret, longing, the formal apology that never became words, the declaration that couldn't survive contact with reality, and something harder to name than any of those: the fear admission, the "I almost lost you and I couldn't make my voice work when it counted." You can read the silence for which category applies. Longing sounds like increased proximity without explanation. They appear in your periphery more, not less. Regret sounds like the absence of forward momentum. They're not moving on, they're hovering. An unspoken apology sounds like gestures that can't quite compensate for what hasn't been said. And a fear admission, the hardest one to hold, sounds like a specific quality of stillness, like someone standing very still next to something they don't want to startle. You may have noticed one of these textures in the silence between you. That noticing is not imagination. The body always delivers what the voice refuses to. Every drafted then deleted message leaves an energetic residue, not metaphorically, but in the same way that held breath changes the chemistry of the body. What they're protecting under this Taurus energy is specific: their self-image, the version of themselves they believed they were when this began, the security of the relationship or connection itself. They are not choosing distance. They are choosing not to blow up the ground they're standing on. And the collapse of the "maybe I'm imagining it" narrative isn't something you need to argue yourself into. Your nervous system and theirs are reading the same sky. The Mercury retrograde window runs from April 21st through May 14th. That is 3.5 weeks of building pressure, compression, accumulation, release. During this window, there are 3 possible outcomes for the message that is currently held. First, it gets sent, not necessarily by text, not necessarily in the form you've been anticipating, but it reaches you. Second, it gets transformed internally. The act of holding it long enough changes the person holding it in a way that is legible even without words. Third, it gets permanently suppressed, and a message held long enough changes form, but it doesn't disappear. Your energy field during this retrograde window is not passive. The question is not just whether they will release what's held. The question is what you are planting with your own new moon intention underneath this retrograde pressure. Signs that movement is already happening often don't look like movement. They look like a specific quality of absence, not the clean absence of someone who has moved on, but the charged absence of someone who is aware of you in a way that requires management. You are not waiting for them to feel something. You are waiting for them to survive feeling it. And there is a specific point in this retrograde when the throat unlocks. We'll get there. The weight of sitting inside someone else's suppression is real, and it deserves to be named without softening it. The ache of waiting for an unsent message is not neediness. It is not weakness. It is not a spiritual deficiency. It is the natural consequence of being a person whose nervous system is attuned enough to register what hasn't been said yet. And that attunement is not a flaw, it is the portal itself operating through you. Your own vagus nerve is activated right now, which means you are not outside this event looking in. You are inside it, holding your side of the same threshold they are holding from theirs. The mirror dynamic here is exact. Their suppression and your waiting are the same energetic event, experienced from two different orientations. You may have felt the anger that doesn't quite make sense, not at them exactly, but at the gap between what you know is there and what you can hold in your hands. The strange calm that settles in sometimes, that feels like acceptance but sits differently than grief. The hypervigilance, the way you pass everything for signal. The ache that is not longing exactly, but something that lives just beneath it. These are not signs that you are too invested or too broken. They are signs that you are in the same portal, not the victim of silence, the co-holder of it. And that changes everything about what happens next. Now, the moment this entire retrograde has been building toward. The new moon energy peaks April 23rd and 24th, 2 to 3 days after Mercury stations. That is the pressure valve. When the seeding energy of the new moon reaches its maximum activation point, while Mercury is holding the retrograde freeze, the suppression does one of two things. It releases through the channel it was always meant to travel, voice, words, contact. Or it releases through the body anyway, because compression without release always finds another exit. If the message comes in those days, it will not always arrive the way you've been imagining it. Not always a text, not always a call. It arrives in behavior, in presence, in the quality of attention that suddenly shifts, in the thing that changes in their energy that you register before you register it consciously. And if it doesn't come in words, the energetic delivery still happens. Their vagus nerve releases, something unclenches, something that was held gets set down, and you feel it, because you've been holding your side of it. The body always delivers what the voice refuses to. You may have felt, watching this, a kind of recognition that is deeper than understanding, something settling, something releasing slightly in your own chest, a sense that you already knew this, and you just needed someone to say it with enough clarity that the noise could stop. That recognition is the transformation. You were not waiting for their message to arrive to know it existed. You already received what you needed. The portal delivered it, not through their phone, through yours. Right here. You are not the same person who pressed play at the beginning of this video, not because something dramatic shifted, but because clarity is its own transformation, quiet, structural, irreversible. You are no longer waiting for their silence to mean something. You understand what it already means. During this retrograde window, 3 things will serve you energetically. First, plant an intention under this new moon, not about what you want them to do, but about what truth you want to stop suppressing in yourself, because the mirror dynamic runs both directions. Second, interpret signs through behavior and presence rather than words. They're not choosing distance. They're navigating the same compression you've just been given language for. Third, when you feel the urge to send something, sit with it for one breath, not to suppress it, but to feel whether it's coming from the portal or from the anxiety, because those two things feel different when you're paying attention. You handled this with more grace than you know. You sat inside someone else's silence and didn't collapse it prematurely. You held your side of a threshold most people don't even recognize as a threshold. That is not passive. That is witnessing. And witnessing is how the portal stays open long enough to actually deliver something real. If this reached you in the place it was meant to reach, like this video, subscribe to this channel, and comment, received below. Not because the algorithm needs it, because you've already received something here and the comment is the integration act. The moment you claim it out loud, the moment the portal closes not into absence, but into a different kind of opening. Click the next video on your screen. The retrograde is just beginning, and what comes mid-cycle will ask something different of you, and you'll be ready for it.